The game is Shadow Ninjas. One player takes on the role of samurai dogs protecting the Shogun's koi. The other players are ninja cats trying to steal them. A one-verse-many competitive board game from Outset Media, who we have to thank for letting us take a review copy home from Origins.
Now, we had the pleasure of learning Shadow Ninjas from the game's designer, Kedrick Winks. His game plays 2 to 5 players of almost any age, with games taking under half an hour, for the most part. Sometimes, if there's a lot of bluffing going on, like our game, it can go a little longer.
Yeah, I was amused when we played with him. He was like, oh, this is going a little longer than most games, but we did bluff quite a bit. Shadow Ninjas features some really nice production quality, including the clear maze-filled board and lots of thick plastic tokens for the cats, their shadows, and the dogs. These tokens, they just feel great in your hand and they slide nicely on the board.
Now in Shadow Ninjas, one player takes on the role of 2 Corgi samurai dogs. The other players control 4 ninja cats and their shadows, all represented by similar looking tokens. While shadows are the same on both sides, the cats have a ninja side and a shadow side, so you can't tell them apart from the shadows when placed on the board.
So each ninja player is assigned a cat token, or more if you're playing with the lower player counts, you play multiple cats, and also gets a number of shadow tokens. While the dog player is not looking, they're going to place their mix of tokens onto the starting area of the board without letting anyone know which one is their ninja. That includes the other cat players. Then the dog player turns around and gets to place his 2 guards on any of the koi fish spots at the top of the board.
Each round in Shadow Ninjas starts with the guard player and then will go clockwise around the table. On a player's turn, they roll 2d6 and then move 2 different tokens, exactly the number shown on each die. And the guard is forced to move both of their guard dogs. The other players can move any 2 cat tokens. It doesn't even have to be their own. Or a player can choose to pass instead of moving, which will allow them to look at any 4 tokens on the board. It's great for when you forget where your cat is.
Now, all movement is orthogonal, and if a piece would move onto another piece, they instead do and are swapped. If at any point there is a cat token in direct line of sight of a guard dog, the token is flipped.
Now, if a shadow is revealed, it stays on the board just to confuse and misdirect the players and mess them up later. If it's a ninja, though, that token's removed and the player who owns that ninja is removed from play. If all ninja players are eliminated, the guard player wins the game.
If a cat token ever reaches one of the koi pawns, it gets flipped over. And then you see if it's a shadow token, it gets returned to the start area. But if it's a ninja, the controller of that cat will win the game.
While that sounds simple, what you may not grasp until you actually sit down and play Shadow Ninjas is just how hard it is to keep track of everything. Mm-hmm. Also, while this sounds like a cooperative one versus many game, and while cats may end up working together in the short term, it is a competitive game where everyone is looking out for themselves.
Yeah, a big part of this game is deception, misdirection, as well as memory. You don't want to be too obvious with which token is your cat, or someone else is just going to run them right into a guard. But you also don't want to move a piece that you don't know what it is too close to the koi, just in case it's another player's ninja. And it's very, very likely you will mess up and forget either where your cat is or what's a shadow and what isn't, and what even is happening halfway through the game after a bunch of do-si-doing happens, especially when playing with certain players who just like to mess with everyone.
Well, bluffing is a huge part of this game. And while you do get to run those cats together and flip them in a little do-si-do to try and mix up which ones are which to confuse everyone else at the table, I did find that in the end, I ended up confusing myself as well by doing a little too much swapping around.
Yeah, memory, well, apparently I don't have one, because the first time I played this game, I lost track of my cat in maybe the first 4 turns. Of course, I didn't know that I had lost track of my cat, so I was surprised as anyone when it was revealed.
Now, during the first few plays of Shadow Ninjas, you're probably going to find the guards have a big advantage, but I will say that does dwindle as players get more experience playing the ninjas and get better at both deceiving the guards and each other. Now, I will still say the guards are easiest to play. If you're looking for like the easy role for someone to take, that's probably the best role for them to play. The game does seem balanced, though, with experienced players. Now, one of the big advantages the ninjas have is the fact they get to go 4 times before the guards go. Like all 4 of them get that. Technically, with 3 players, only 3, but if you're playing 2, there's still 4. And this is the reason that players get more than one cat at the lower player counts, is for that balance. because how often the guards go is huge for them. Like once you start losing cats, the guard's job just gets so much easier and they get to move more often. This is why players will want to actually kind of cooperate early in the game and try to mislead the guards and kind of work together for a bit, only to betray each other later, like a proper ninja would.
Yeah, I taught this at our last public play event, and with the table of new players, playing as the guard dogs it's just too easy, right? I felt guilty for winning, but it was still fun though. So I find that it is fun from both sides, from the cat or the dog side.
This game for me is as much, if not more, of a bluffing game than something like poker. But of course, in order to do that, you have to be able to keep the identity of at least your pieces in mind, as well as your suspicions of the other players' locations to prevent them from winning, while misdirecting the dogs and working your way to win.
Now, an aspect of Shadow Ninjas that does turn off some gamers is the randomness. This is a roll and move game, right? You've got some classic board gaming mechanics here. If the guards roll a bunch of double sixes, the cats are going to have a bad time of it. It's probably going to be a quick game. Similarly, one player getting a bunch of high rolls can give them an advantage, though it does get offset by the ability of the other players to move the same pieces if it seems like someone's getting too far away.
Yeah, there is some randomness here from the dice, but I don't think it breaks the game. I think I remember Kedrick saying that they tested it with set player movement numbers, and it just wasn't the same. And I think I can see why you need that randomness. If you had a set number of movement points each turn, then you could plan ahead more. And that removes some of the having to adapt to the situation part of the game that that tiny bit of randomness throws in there.
Now, this game also features a mechanic that we generally do not recommend, and that's player elimination. Players will be eliminated and have to sit out while the game continues. Now, this isn't often a long game, so it's not onerous, but if you're playing with younger players in particular, this can be problematic. Kedrick recommends just moving them back to the start for younger players rather than eliminating, so they can continue participating even though they may not have the chance to win anymore.
Now, the other thing that was mentioned, and I did see this with other groups, is there is that kind of the one versus many feel. So even when you're eliminated, then you're still rooting for the cats. You at least want the cats to win. You're no longer, well, I guess you could be like, no, I want everyone else to fail. But every group I've seen playing the game, if you're eliminated, you're still invested in the cats winning and at least beating that guard dog player. Now, the thing I want to call out about Shadow Ninjas, this is kind of unique to me, but is a similarity to another cat-based bluffing game, which in Canada from Chieftain Games was called Cats, or Cats Mansion in the States and the UK. I've talked about this on the podcast before. It's been mentioned on the blog. This is a silly game I had growing up in the 80s that I still break out now and then. We try to play it at least once a year. And it are 5 cats, each trying to get one of 4 presents. And similar to Shadow Ninjas, no one knows what cat the other players are or what present they're going for. And when you can move any piece. It doesn't have to be yours. And when Kedrick first described Shadow Ninjas, I'm just sitting there smiling because I'm like, it's cats. This is awesome. It's like a better version of Cats. So if you remember Cats Mansion fondly, think of Shadow Ninjas as an advanced and much better version.
Like there are some similarities, but Shadow Ninjas is a better game and also readily available without a time machine.
Overall, I really dig this one versus many versus themselves bluffing game. The gameplay is lightning quick. It's easy to teach. It's been a huge hit at our local public play events. My kids love it. My mother-in-law had fun with it. Super accessible, and it's just kind of silly and fun. Even the randomness of the dice is just part of the chaos and fun factor here.
If you're into lighter games that play quick but still have a ton of player agency with tons of options each turn, or games with memory and bluffing elements, then you're probably going to love Shadow Ninjas. If you're looking for a competitive one versus many game, this is an interesting one with its semi-cooperative, turning cutthroat nature.
Now, if you don't like randomness and prefer your abstract games with a more chess-like feel, this probably isn't the game for you. The same goes if you are dead set against player elimination. Though I do have to say, the 2-player game does give you more of that intellectual challenge than the player counts, so maybe give it a shot.
I honestly feel like this is one of those games where everyone should just give it a shot. You may like it.
Now, personally, I'm super happy Kedrick introduced us to his game. And I got to say props to everyone at the Outset Media booth at Origins for just being awesome and welcoming and showing us a good time. We basically spent most of our morning there. And special thanks to Outset Media Guy for getting Kedrick to sign our copies of his games, which was pretty awesome. I never even thought of getting my games signed by designers. That was a thing at Origins this time. And plus, he knew about Cat's Mansion. Outset Media guy was a playtester. He tells me it's a terrible game, and I tell him it's still fun. I got to say, Shadow Ninjas is going to be a regular at Bellhop Public Play events for months, possibly even years to come. Like, this is just one that I think is just going to be on the table.
And with that, poof, this review is done. Was it really a review, or was it just a shadow of a review? You better go check on the Koi just in case.
Now, while working on this review, I realized we really haven't played a lot of one versus many games. Not counting like the Game Master style, right? But like the other ones where there's one player has a totally different role from everyone else. And I think this might be an oversight that we might want to try to fix, something to expand our little gaming knowledge here. So what I want to know from you is, what's a one versus many board game that we should take the time to check out? Let us know in the comments, on social media, or on our Discord.
Now, one thing I like many of is coffee. It's time for a top up. You can help keep us motivated and caffeinated through ko-fi.com/tabletop bellhop.